Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to the JP on Comms YouTube channel, where we are here today to discuss the latest breaking news from Maidstone United. 1 hour ago from the time of recording, Maidstone United did announce that George Elokobi, Maidstone's old caretaker manager, is going to become the new permanent manager of the club from today's date. Of course, if you haven't seen already, Maidstone did put out on their social media platforms, I did first see it on Instagram, that George Elokobi has been given the permanent role for the rest of this season and for the 2023-24 season. So that is next year's campaign, also starting in the summer. And it does seem we're going to be in the south next year. That's generally what most people are agreeing now. I think that's fair to say. I'm firmly of that belief. Unfortunately, I think our season's well and truly over. We are out of the trophy. Certainly, in my opinion, well and truly done in the league. So yeah, I think giving George the job was something that was probably in the works for quite a while. We've of course seen him come in about January time, once Hakan Hayreton and Terry Harris left after some poor running of form. But yes, George, 2 months of caretaker experience in his career. Of course, he's got a bit of a coaching background. He was helping Hack throughout the season, and of course played a very influential role despite not featuring ever so much in the team last season during that title-winning campaign. So, you know, he knows the South. We were in the South for 3 years whilst George was at the club. At that time, you know, he would have experienced a lot in terms of managerial stuff. He would have gained experience from Hakan. He would have gained experience from things he's doing outside of the club as well. Working with Wolverhampton Wanderers. I believe he's still got links to Colchester, Oldham, Leyton Orient as well. So I can imagine he's picked up a bit of experience from people he knows within the business. And I think, you know, it is certainly an interesting one. It's certainly an interesting appointment. If you haven't seen already, it's divided the fan base very much so already. And that's going to be one of the main talking points we're going to go into in this video. But a couple of things I want to look at in this video, of course, is the reaction of the fan base. I want to look at the future of the club for Maidstone. I want to see where, you know, this appointment is going to take us going into next season. And I want to again look at the transfer policy and how I think that's going to develop under George as well. So let's take a little look first at the reaction of the fan base. If you are a member of the Maidstone United supporters group on Facebook, or you are part of the forum as well, the Maidstone United forum, I think it's just a Stones forum, something like that. If you just Google it, Maidstone United forum, it'll come up. And yeah, the reaction has been interesting. Let's be fair. There's a few people saying, you know, let's go George, good luck George, you know, Super George Elokobi, we've got Super Elokobi and all that stuff, which is all well and good. I'm firmly behind supporting him. If you didn't see my Creating Conversation video, I went quite deeply into what I think Maidstone are going to do, and I did say I believe in that video. If I didn't say, I was certainly thinking it, that I was very much under the impression that George Elokobi was very, very likely to get the permanent manager's role at the club. I did think they were going to do it at the end of the season. Not really sure in the value of doing it now. The transfer window did shut yesterday, on Thursday the 23rd of March. Today is Friday the 24th, the day of the announcement. So yeah, is an interesting one to give someone a permanent role the day after the transfer window closes. Not really had too much in terms of time and prep, I suppose, as someone with that. I mean, he would have known yesterday that he was going to get the permanent role, I can imagine. So maybe they did that knowing he's able to get a few transfers in for the end of this season with a sight towards next season. But we'll go into that. But yes, back onto the fan base reaction. Drifted away there slightly. On the forum and things like that, opinion has been divided. Some people very happy, supportive of George. Some people very, very unhappy, very, very disappointed in the ownership for a lack of ambition, which I feel is valid. It's certainly valid. some of the way it's been put across is a bit harsh, to be fair, I think, in my opinion. But, you know, Maidstone aren't exactly the best place to go for a manager at the moment. I mean, you look at Craig Wanderers is doing. He was a candidate for us. You look at who's at Gillingham. They're now back on the up. So, we're not the brightest prospect in and around non-league football at the moment. And there's managers out there who think they might be able to do better or are just comfortable where they are right now. So, I think George was not necessarily someone we've settled for, but I think someone that we were happy to do that for. Someone we were happy that, if a better option comes up, we might take it. But the option we've got is not too bad. I think that would have probably been the opinion of the ownership and the people behind the scenes at the club. But yeah, general reaction has not been brilliant. I saw one person on the forum, and I know this is probably exactly what they want. They want some sort of reaction, but someone on there said that, we've given him the job to play the race and diversity card and meet the quota. Fuck off. I don't know why you'd say that. I mean, it doesn't need any more addressing than that. I think that's a pretty accurate response to it. It needs no more than that. But I think it's fair to say you're disappointed. You're, disappointed in the lack of ambition from the ownership due to George's managerial experience and the way he's performed this season. That's perfectly valid. That's fine. But for any other reason than that, especially one to go down the race route, that's not going to sit right with me or the vast majority of the fan base. Of course, you get a few bad eggs every now and then, but let's do what we do best and just keep those people aside for now. Let's not pay much attention to those. And George is no stranger to abuse in his career. We saw it last season at some away grounds. He was racially abused, even in pre-season. Last year he was racially abused. So, that's probably going to have a bit of an effect on him. But he's a very strong person. I'm sure he's more than capable of dealing with that. And I'm sure he knows these people don't really reflect the fan base in its entirety. So hopefully he's more than happy to go ahead with the role. I think he's going to be able to pull off something a little bit better next season than what we've seen this season. I think that's fair to say. It'd be quite hard not to. Also, let's point that out. But yeah, I mean, going into next year, of course, we're going to see a few changes. I believe there's going to be some sort of reshuffle behind the scenes. I think George is going to want his own people in. Whether that means, the likes of Fagan stay and Ryan Gordon stay with him. Zach Foster-Crouch, of course, head of recruitment, and goalkeeping coach as well. These are people that George is happy to work with at the moment. Are these people that he's going to be happy to work with in the long term? Once he's got his hands on things. So we'll see. We'll see how that develops. It's worth noting as well that since Hakan has left the club, I think that the recruitment has been significantly better. We've seen the likes of Sam Bone come in, Josh Onibare come in, Mark Marshall. These are good players. These are good players that if we were to keep them for next season, we'd certainly see them play quite well there, I do believe. So props to the recruitment team. They have had a lot of stick of late, and I saw an article the other day. I think it said George is working hard with the recruitment team, brackets Zach Foster-Crouch, to try and assess the options that we've got and look to bring in the right players for this side. And all the replies were very, very negative. You've got to understand that the person who has the final decision on these things is not necessarily the head of recruitment or the head of scouting. Their job is to put people forward. Whether they're agreed with or not is left to the manager, I do believe, or the director of football, or anybody, the chief exec, usually stuff like that in football. So, I think it's worth noting that there's been a big improvement in what we saw signed in the summer compared to what we've seen signed in the last 2-3 months. So I'm happy in that direction. The direction recruitment's going. I think a few more signings like Josh Onibare and Sam Bone. I think we'll be all right for next season if we get a few more players like that in. So yeah, talking about recruitment, what do I think the strategy is going to be? Well, I've said this in a few of my videos as well, and if you speak to me outside of YouTube and stuff like that, then you know my opinion on recruitment and how I think it's going to be done. I think that it's been a very long time since we've made good money off a player, and I think with the sale of Jack Barham, we've seen perhaps a little bit of a change in that. I think we've seen the strategy develop a little bit. I think that that's a good step forward. I think being able to turn players who are going to leave for nothing into a saleable asset, someone we can benefit from and get money from, and reinvest that into the squad is a good turning point, something we didn't really see under Hakan during his tenure. I don't think we sold one player for a figure. I may be wrong, of course, but I think, I've said in previous videos, Joe Pigott was really the only player I can think of that's gone for a fee in recent years, if you can even call that recent. So certainly not under Hack. So yeah, I think that's a good development. Seeing, Barham was going to go, we got something out of it, reinvest it, go from there. And I'll be happy to see more of that in the future. Maybe not, at an important time, but developing younger players for the future. Got the likes of Solwan Giles Smith. I believe he's got the ability to play Football League. I believe we've got other players in the squad with the ability to play Football League. They just need the right career development. I think that we'd be very lucky to see a few more players like those come in. The sort of younger developing players, that kind of 20 to 25 sort of age bracket. I think that's what we're going to be looking at, maybe even a little bit younger. I think that if we were to get those players in, we've proven that despite even, let's get this straight as well, we have been the worst side in the National League this season, and we've had Sheffield Wednesday and Millwall be happy to send us two very, very bright young prospects in Ryan Galvin and Shamar Lawson, and Ryan Sanford as well, when he was still with us. He's not passed, he's just injured. But, and these teams are really happy with their development. The players are happy with their development. And if Maidstone can develop this reputation in non-league for being a sort of hub for players who can come in on a loan, or, someone might want to take that step down to try and benefit their career with the sight of maybe in a year or two moving back up the pyramid, we'll benefit from that. We really will benefit from that. Non-league doesn't see much loyalty. You're doing well if you're getting maybe 2 years out of a player in around this division. So I think if we could see a couple more players coming in ahead of next season, or maybe over that pre-season kind of break, I think if we could see maybe 2 or 3 more players with the sort of profile of Solwan Giles Smith, Sam Bone, Josh Barre, these sort of younger prospects with a good side development, in their future, then I think I'd be very happy with that. I think, if we were to get promoted and maybe lose 1 or 2 of them because a bigger club came in for them, and we could then invest that into some quality to keep us in the National League in 2 seasons' time, what a perfect idea that would be. I think that would be a very, very good thing. Obviously, I'd be sad to lose some quality players, but to see that reinvested and get more quality in is something that I think everybody can look forward to. And I think that's something George will want to do. I think that's something we've seen under George so far. We've seen, of course, Nathan Jeke promoted to that senior side, yet to really feature in that first team, but is in and around the first team training, is getting on the bench in these bigger fixtures. So, we may see players like that coming through. I think we need to have a bit more faith in them, to be honest. Some of the more senior players haven't really shown their value this year, so I think a bit more trust in some of the younger prospects we've got, develop them, maybe move them on. If we do retain them, benefit from having them at the club and their footballing quality. So I'm looking forward to that side of things, recruitment. I think that's going to improve drastically. I think that also, considering the transfer window did end yesterday, we haven't actually announced anybody. I'd be surprised if nobody was announced. Of course, you only have to sign them, by yesterday. So, whether we announce them or not is a different story, isn't it? So I think probably maybe Woking at the weekend or the game after that. We'll probably see one player announced, something like that, one maybe two players. With Jack Barham leaving, the fan base isn't too happy with James Elokobi. Even if you are, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes every week with his fitness. He's not had that regular game time this season, so it'd be unfair to expect him to be playing every game every week for the rest of the year. And I think a bit more cover in that area, maybe with the prospect of maybe if it's a short-term deal, maybe like a 3-month contract or something, or a 2-month contract, just to maybe scout someone, see what they're about. With the look of signing them next season, that'd be a good idea. Maybe another defender, maybe another midfielder. Of course, we're going to lose Galvin Alorse at the end of this year. We'd be bloody really lucky to get him back in the south next year. So, yeah, we're going to need to sign a couple more replacements, but I think we will announce at least one come Woking or the next fixture or two. But yeah, so looking ahead to next season, obviously we talked about Elokobi, we talked about recruitment. Both of those things are going to tie into how we perform next year. George has been contracted to next year now. And for me, I think he's going to set the bar quite high. But I think he's someone who is quite happy with, I don't want to say the bar not necessarily being met, but not overachieving. I think he's all right with not doing that. I think he's quite all right with a steady ship. I think that's what we've seen this season anyway. For the time that he's been in charge, he's quite happy with us at least performing slightly better. Whether that changes for next season or not, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're going to win the league title under Elokobi. I think we'll certainly be at least in the playoffs. Whether we will finish in the top 3 or not, it's a tough one to tell. We've certainly got some of the right personnel, but George has got a lot of learning to do. Let's not beat around the bush. He's shown some potentially tactical ineptitude at points during his tenure so far. His substitutions haven't always worked out. They have cost us points at times. And, sometimes it's the wrong starting lineup. Sometimes it's the wrong decision on where to play someone. But that's all part of development. That's all part of learning. I think the fans would do well, myself included, to accept a period of transition next year. I think if we could come together and maybe go, you know what, this is new territory for all of us. In terms of the players we're going to have next season, it's going to be new grounds for them. Elokobi, it's going to be new grounds for him. The fan base is going to be new grounds in terms of all of those things combined. So, yeah, I think we do well to accept a period of transition next year. It's going to be tough. I don't want to see a period of transition. I want to see us win the league and go straight back up with 100 points and sign some really good players and sell some really good players for thousands of pounds to league teams, but that's not always the case, is it? We can be hopeful, but we do have to remain realistic. We have to look at our ability to spend, and we will be one of the biggest spenders in the league next year. I can't imagine our budget would be much different from what we saw last year or this year in the National League. I think it'd be in that sort of middle ground. So yeah, I think next season we probably finish about third, would be my prediction, second or third. I don't think we'll win the league. I think we could go up in the playoffs, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? So yes, I think there's certainly things to be hopeful for next season. I think, again, what I said in my last Creating Conversation video is all about perspective. It's about trying to learn things from other people. Look at how other people are viewing things. You may be one of these people who has been slagging off the recruitment, has been going, well, look at the rubbish we signed in the summer and look at the rubbish we signed here and the players that have gone back and all this and all that. And, I think there's some quality hidden in there. I think, especially in the later signings we've seen since George has come in, I think that we will benefit from that going forward, and I'm quite hopeful in that aspect. So, maybe take a leaf out of my book, maybe I'll take a leaf out of yours in terms of maybe there was some better options out there than George, but we have to continue on with the cards we've been dealt. And I think that we've got a young manager with a lot of passion. We've got a young team who will have a lot of passion going into next season. And I think that, we've got a young fan base who is very, very passionate, of course. There's some older people in amongst the fans, of course, and those are really the lifeblood of the club. The people who have been there from day dot, the people who have seen us playing away from town. And, when we didn't have a home, we're going to games. And I think looking now at the fan base, it's clearly developing. We've got a lot of younger people getting invested in Maidstone United, myself included. Of course, I'm slightly older than a few of the people that I'm talking about here, but there's a lot of good things to look forward to for next season. I think that Maidstone's going to be able to benefit from this developing side and the developing fan base, and I think in the long term things are going to work out just all right. So that's going to be all from me. I hope you did enjoy this little rambling video talking about George Elokobi and having a little look into things ahead of next season. There's going to be plenty more videos coming on this topic over the next few weeks as well. We're going to have the podcast with Sean and Nigel and potentially Connor, the Enigma, come the end of the month. And of course, we're going to be talking about this then too. So do stay tuned for that sort of stuff. If you are interested in seeing more stuff that I do put out, check out the videos on the channel already. There's plenty of stuff out there for everybody. And I do a few other types of videos as well, looking at the Premier League and a few other things like that. So do subscribe to the channel if that sort of stuff interests you. I'll be here bringing you all the news going forward as per usual. So thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.